Hey everyone, welcome to Play Hooky with me. My name is Roz, and in today's video I'll be showing how to make a finger knit ribbed blanket. This is an easy project that does not require any knitting experience. We'll just be forming simple loops with our fingers that give the appearance of knit and purl stitches. If this is your first time seeing this technique, I would recommend that you check out my video on how to make a classic finger knit blanket. It's beginner friendly and a great introduction to this technique. I've added timestamps along the progress line and in the description box below so you can jump straight to your point of interest. For this project, I'm using the Bernat Blanket Big. Jumbo 7 is the size. It is washer and dryer safe, and that's because it's made with 100% polyester. The blanket that you see here in the video is 3 by 4 feet long. If you want to make a similar size, then I recommend 5 balls of yarn. If you want to make a 4 by 5, then I recommend 6. I've added more details regarding the sizing in the description box below. To create the ribbing effect, we're going to be working in multiples of 3. To ensure that you get the ribbing on each end, just make sure that your chain count ends with an odd number. For example, I wanted mine to be 3 feet wide, so I chained to the number 27. To get started, we're going to form a slip knot. Wrap the yarn around your fingers, pull a loop through, tighten, and this will form your slip knot and your first loop. Aim for about 2.5 to 3 inches. You want your loops to be a little bit bigger than the rest of your blanket. This will help give a straighter edge. In my previous blanket, I only made my chains about 1.5 to 2 inches, and as you can see, it made it rather tight. So just going up about an inch makes a big difference. To make your chain, very easy to do. Just pull the yarn through the center of the previous chain and form a loop. Continue doing this until you reach the width that you want your blanket to be. Don't forget you want to end with an odd number for your chains. This will ensure that you get a ribbing on each side. And now we're ready for row 1. We're going to be forming loops within loops. We're just going to be taking our chain here and pulling the yarn through our chain. So if you had 27 chains like I did, now you're going to be forming 27 loops. To form your loops, just pinch at the top of your chains to pull the yarn through to create your knit stitch. We're going to be doing this all the way across. For my loops, I'm making them about 1.5 to 2 inches high. This is my comfort level, and I like my loops to be a little bit tight. I like to refer to this technique right here as the knit stitch because we're also going to be pulling from a different direction for the purl stitch. So continue all the way down on this row with a knit stitch. This is the only time in the blanket that we'll be doing this. Take care not to miss the last loop next to the slip knot. This one is easy to miss. And once you've completed all of your loops, double check that you have the same amount of loops as you do your chains, and then you're ready for row 2. For row 2 and the rest of the blanket, we're going to be working in multiples of 3 now. We're going to begin with 3 knit stitches. Just continue on as you were before, pulling the loops from behind to the front to create a knit looking stitch. For the next 3, we're going to create purl stitches. Bring your yarn to the front, and we're going to feed the yarn into the front of the loop instead. Making sure your loops are parallel on the sides. You don't want it to twist on you. Push your loop through. That will create your purl stitch. Do this for the next 2. Just push through and pull. Try to make the loops the same size as you were for your knit loops. That way your loops will have the same size on both sides, which will give you a nice reversible blanket. And now we're ready to go back to the knit for the next 3. Pull the yarn back to the back of the loop and pinch through to pull it forward to make a knit stitch. Do this 3 times. And back to a purl stitch, bring the yarn forward and push through the loop, pulling to the back. And this is all we're going to do for the rest of the blanket. We're just going to alternate from knit to purl. 3 knits, 3 purls until you get to the height you want your blanket to be. The easiest way to remember this is just to bring the yarn forward when you're ready to do a purl stitch. Very similar to real knitting, you're working from behind the stitch when you're doing a knit stitch, and you're working in front of the stitch when you're doing a purl stitch. And once you've reached the end, if you don't have 3 knit stitches to finish with, then you know you need to go back and find where you missed a stitch. Just continue on row after row, repeating the same sequence, 3 knit, 3 purl, until you've reached the desired height of your blanket. If your loops keep pulling out, that probably means you're making your loops too short. Try to make them at least 1.5 inches long, otherwise this will be a common problem. You can see here with these are only about 1 inch, and they are going to keep slipping out on me. Another issue are twisted loops and hidden loops. Just make sure that you keep those loops parallel before you feed a new loop through. And these little stinkers do like to hide on you. So if you've missed a stitch somewhere, it's typically going to be one of your purl stitches. If you catch a missed stitch on the back of your blanket, don't worry, you can fix this easily with a needle and thread. I like to attach to the 2 posts below the missed stitch, and then I just kind of play around with this. Just use your eyes as your guide. The beauty of this yarn is that the stitches virtually disappear. To join a new ball of yarn, I like to use a fisherman's knot, or I like to call it the magic knot. We're just going to tie in 2 places. 1, and again on the other side, 2. Pull on both sides until the 2 knots join, and then snip. You can snip as close as you like, it is not going to come out. Another reason I like this so much is you don't use a lot of your yarn, which is a precious commodity, right? Tug, 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 and then you're ready to continue. For your last row, you want to make sure that you have at least 3 lengths of your blanket of yarn left over. This is because you're going to make your final loops a little bit longer, just like you did your starting chain. I would recommend making them about 3 inches long. You don't want to go any smaller than that because you're going to be feeding these loops into each other. When I did this, I continued on with the 3 knit and 3 purl stitch sequence, but you can absolutely just do knit stitches all the way across like you did in the very beginning if you want. It's completely up to you. When you reach the end, take a look at where your active yarn is and work on the opposite side. Just take 1 loop, feed it into the next, and continue all the way across. When you reach the end, take the tail and feed it into that very last loop. This is going to secure it with a slip knot. To finish, take your tail and weave it into the side of your blanket and then secure with a needle and thread. I recommend you do this for the beginning slip knot as well. I really do hope you'll give this blanket a try, and if you do like finger knit projects, check out these other videos.